Okay. Huh. Why am I not getting that? Instagram is such a hot mess trying to figure stuff out.
Is it?
Oh, like posting to it and everything. There's just stuff all over the place. Okay, why don't I just go, wait, Night Talk Canada? Okay. I just went to Night Talk Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got everything but the live feed. On mine, anyway. Oh, you know what?
What? We're both showing up. But what's going on
Yeah,
here?
we're live. I flipped a switch, forgot.
Right.
That's okay. We're okay. Everything's under control. From here, it'll be under control. I can't find it on Instagram, and it's already caused me one screw up, so I'm not going to bother with it.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I know. I'm not. I see it on my browser. I don't know. Anyway.
I'll wait for your cue.
Have a great show.
You too, my friend.
Happy Canada Day before the fireworks tonight. In Ottawa, our official prime ministerial residence sits in literal crumbling decay, a monument to political paralysis.
And here in Quebec, a systemic blueprint is being laid out to dismantle the Federation entirely.
And on our streets, the comfortable myth of the polite, agreeable Canadian is disintegrating under structural daily economic pressure. From Montreal, episode 90 of Night Talk Canada begins now. I'm Gary MacDonald.
And just down the street as usual, I'm Eddie Tekalik. And tonight, we aren't waving the flag. We are actually stress testing it.
Who are we when the old scripts no longer hold? Let's get started.
A decaying prime ministerial residence isn't just about real estate. It's not just a real estate problem. It's a physical manifestation of a political class that's too terrified of voter backlash to make a decision. The long-delayed multi-million-dollar restoration of 24 Sussex Drive highlights an institutional paralysis where optics completely trump governance. Prime Minister Carney announced plans to restore the residence just last week.
24 Sussex is nearly as old as our country. First built in 1868, for more than 75 years, this house has welcomed leaders from around the world, including Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Sir Winston Churchill, President John F. Kennedy. 24 Sussex Drive is more than a residence. It's greater than a mere backdrop to history. It's a symbol of the public office of the head of our federal government and of the democratic traditions that office represents. Canadians rightly expect their leaders to take decisions where the benefits may only be realized long after they're in office. And this is the type of decision we're taking today. because good stewardship demands it, and because Canadians rightly expect it, and because the future of our institutions, all our institutions, depends on us leaving them better than we found them. We have to apply that principle comprehensively, not selectively.
And Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre dismissed the PM's plan.
I really don't think about it at all. You know, I just think when I go around this country and I meet so many people who can't afford a place to live, when I see the homelessness on our streets and I see the young people who are desperate to start families but can't get a house to do it, I just think the last thing on our minds should be 24 Sussex Drive.
Well, that's rather rich from somebody who's living in Stornoway. Continued to do so after losing his seat in an election his party lost. However, I will not throw any more snowballs in that direction. I think everybody is smart enough to figure out that it rings a little hollow coming from Mr. Poilievre when he's been spending the last couple of years as leader of the opposition living on the taxpayers' dime, including when he had no seat.
Yeah, which is what, about 3 or 4 months of living at our expense, Gary, right?
That's right. Well, the election was at the end of April, and the by-election was mid-August. And then by the time he was sworn in, we were looking at, what, late August, early September, something like that. So, yeah, you know, that little at the beginning, yeah, that's not ringing with me. And I'm sure a lot of Canadians are finding that one a little bit bitter to swallow as well. Now, with apologies to everyone, because I've got something a little extra to throw in here. And it's a Canadian out in BC, Todd Maffin, who has YouTube, he has Facebook, he has Reels, he has TikTok, and he is well-spoken and has a large following. And he had a little clip that he did for 24 Sussex Drive. Anyway, he did it, and I just decided I'd play a couple of, about a minute of it, because I think it kind of sums up the whole thing. And with apologies to Todd, because I didn't get a chance to reach out to ask him, but it's something that I think it's well done. I really appreciate his work. If you haven't had a chance, his links will be up on the screen while the video is playing. By all means, check him out. I think you'll end up subscribing like that. So anyway, let's go to Todd's clip.
While the American president demolishes part of his taxpayer-funded residence to build a $300 million ballroom, in Canada, the residence of our leader has been sitting empty for a decade because it is literally falling apart. This is the story of 24 Sussex Drive, a Gothic revival mansion in Ottawa, built in 1867 by a lumber baron, eventually taken over by the federal government, and turned into the official residence of Canada's Prime Minister. In 1951, Louis St. Laurent moved in, and almost every prime minister after him lived there too, right up until 2015. That is when Justin Trudeau moved into Rideau Cottage instead, a small house on the grounds of the Governor General's mansion. Trudeau said the official residence was in such a state of disrepair that it wasn't habitable. He wasn't wrong. Asbestos, mold, rodents, dead electrical systems. 2 years ago, they had to gut the interior just to make it safe for workers to enter. So why did this happen? 2 words: bad optics. Every prime minister since Trudeau knew the math. Renovations could cost anywhere from tens of millions to over $100 million, and fixing up your own residence while Canadians are struggling with rent? None of them wanted that headline. So each one just passed the file to the next guy. Former Prime Ministers Jean Chrétien and Stephen Harper, on opposite ends of the political spectrum, even offered to lead a private fundraising campaign to fix the place. Now compare this to the Americans. Since 1800s, the White House has been redecorated, structurally rebuilt, given a third floor, an east wing, a west wing, a press briefing room, and is currently getting a 90,000 square foot ballroom that is larger than the entire White House itself.
Yeah.
So I think you should go and find that video on his Facebook site or on his YouTube site and watch the rest of it, because it is really quite entertaining but extremely informative as well. And as I say, if you start checking out some of his other videos, you're not going to be disappointed at all. So great work.
Boy,
Just great work.
did he really put that into perspective and really set us up for the rest of our segment here? Like, wow, well said, well said.
Yeah, very much so. So let's have a look at it. Overall, we have decades of neglect. 24 Sussex Drive remains a hazardous, unlivable shell after successive governments kicked that political football down the road. The cost of the inaction, while delaying basic infrastructure maintenance, as we all know, has inflated the ultimate taxpayer bill on an older house like that into the tens of millions. And this is where we get into the politics of it. The leaders across the political spectrum refused and have refused to greenlight the restoration, fearing political ads weaponizing the spend against them. Well, Eddie, somewhere along the way, somebody has to take the bull by the horns. So finally, along comes Carney.
Someone does.
Yeah,
Someone does.
exactly. Someone finally does. They have the gonads to go ahead and let's do it. And they're doing it in such a way, they've set up a foundation with the support of former prime ministers, and they're going to raise money from Canadians. Now, Carney says that anything related to security for the Prime Minister and his or her family, including young children, if that happens to be the case at some point down the road, will be borne by the government. And yes, the government could fund the whole thing. However, this is a roundabout way of getting Canadians involved in the restoration of a symbol of our democracy. The home dates back to 1867, and it has been in service, with the Canadian government picking it up, and has served a number of prime ministers. And we should have an official residence for a prime minister. She is the leader of our country, the very top rung of our democratic system. And I think that we should really embrace that and show our pride, not only in our country, but in the pillars of our country, our democracy. And one of them is our Prime Minister, as the head of government, should have an official residence, and one where, like, they're going to have to add on to this facility because he or she needs office space, meeting rooms, so that they can work out of there, and also for entertaining other heads of state.
Right.
And that could be heads of states, a number. In the number one address in Canada, 24 Sussex Drive. Anyway, that's, Poilievre's talking about, there are a lot of homeless people, and yes, there are. Yes, there are. I don't disagree with that. And yes, we need to be addressing the situations on our streets in a fashion that's going to show some progress. But the first thing we have to do is we have to stop feeding them drugs and alcohol as a way of maintaining whatever level they're at. Like the whole system has to be reviewed. And we also have to work on getting affordable housing, no question. But those are all parts, they all come together. You can't keep kicking this football down the road as far as our official residence is concerned. And I don't have a problem with Carney coming out with this plan and the fact that he's actually giving Canadians a chance to donate to the restoration process.
Exactly. I mean, there we talked about this in one of our episodes and over one of our many coffees, and I think we both, as citizens of this wonderful country, felt very embarrassed by what 24 Sussex Drive has become. I think that they should just basically take a picture of it, Disney, for example, and build a haunted house out of it, because that's exactly what it ended up being. And as a democracy to be envied by other countries around the world, to in global media, to actually see our prime minister delivering addresses from Rito, which is not exactly what you would like to see our prime minister standing in front, coming out of his porch to address the country. We need a little bit of pride in ourselves, our government, and how we treat our government officials. I'm very, very saddened by, the likes of the Mulrooney's, the likes of the Chrétiens, the likes of the Harpers, and especially Mr. Trudeau. They just didn't do anything about restoring that heritage site. It is a heritage site. Every government building is a heritage site. And to treat it as such, I think, is an absolute travesty. And they all basically chickened out and bowed out because they didn't want to be the ones to be criticized for making that big boy decision. And you know what? Here comes Mr. Carney, recognizes the fact that this prestigious building will be a multi-purpose, multi-function establishment. A, it's going to be his home, the Prime Minister's office. B, and as you very properly put, any delegation coming from whatever country into Canada to discuss affairs of state, affairs of Canada, affairs globally, why not put them up at the Prime Minister's residence? I mean, it has multiple rooms, and it'd be able to hold a lot of leaders simultaneously, where they can actually have secure private conversations about the sovereignty of our country or the sovereignty of their country or business and economy. Now they've got to what? They've got to outsource and go to different hotels and get together that way. I think it's just ridiculous. And Gary, let's right at the beginning of that clip that you showed, here you have half the White House in shambles. They're going to be paying tens of billions of dollars to get this thing restored to its proper format. And here we are in Canada, a G7 economy. We got no place to put up our prime minister. And I'm really, really proud of the fact that a prime minister made the decision and is going to restore this without necessarily going through an entire taxpayer-paid exercise where he's creating a funding program to be able to pay for this, because it's going to cost a lot of money because of a horrendous amount of years of neglect. And good for him. You know what? He'll take 8 steps forward. He's willing to take 1 step backward, and he'll continue taking 8 steps forward. You know what? This is a step forward, Gary, in my view. And any government building, I mean, you look at the Parliament, you look at Center Block, East Block, West Block, you look at the Senate. This place is under constant renovations for the upkeep because they are aged buildings, and they keep them looking great. When people come visit the Canadian government, City of Ottawa, the Parliament buildings, they're all awestruck. No matter where they come from, they're all awestruck. And you know what? And then all of a sudden on the news or whatnot, they'll see the Prime Minister's residence and they'll hear about 24 Sussex Drive being on shambles. I think as Canadians, we should all be embarrassed, including Mr. Poilievre. This is one of those opportunities I think he should have taken to compliment Prime Minister Carney on actually doing this. I think he would have gotten himself a lot more brownie points than the poking and rhetoric, sitting in his chair like a matter of fact he doesn't care, but he'll go ahead and criticize the Prime Minister for his decision. So, In my book right now, Mr. Poilievre lost brownie points. I think that was a tactical mistake. And by the same token, I'm sure that when 24 Sussex Drive is finally restored, and maybe one day PP might get a chance to sit in the chair. I certainly hope he's going to put up his hand and say, "No, you know what? No, I've got my principles. I'm not going to stay at 24 Sussex Drive." That will not happen. So I'm really happy Mr. Carney, Prime Minister Carney, took this decision. If Mr. Poilievre was sitting in the chair, I really hope he would have taken the decision. So equally, I'm giving both men the opportunity to do the right thing, and I think one out of the two actually did it. So there's my piece, Gary. You know how passionate I am about Canadian architecture and the beauty of our government buildings, and this one was a thorn in my side, and I'm glad somebody's finally pulling it out.
I popped a question into the comments. Should the government completely demolish 24 Sussex Drive and build a modern, functional, cost-efficient official residence, or is preserving the heritage structure worth the ongoing political gridlock? Well, I think we're breaking the gridlock now. And also, building a modern, functional, cost-efficient official residence, good luck with that, because the way government contracts go, you and I both know, let's be honest, that the cost of a new, modern, efficient facility is going to come out to almost what the restoration of 24 Sussex will come out to. We both know that.
And then some.
And then some, exactly. And what are we going to have? We're not going to have something that dates back to the birth year of our country.
Mm-hmm.
That in itself is worth whatever it costs to restore this building and add to it so that it's totally functional as an official residence and workspace. And that's what it needs to be. And the other thing is, and Carney said so the other day, he said, I won't be living there.
Yeah.
In other words, it's not going to be finished before he ends whether the voters end his political career or he decides to end his political career. And I have a feeling that he may not last. If he goes in and wins another term, I think he's probably going to be like a 2-term. And then he's just going to say, okay, I've set these wheels in motion. I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, or most of what I wanted to accomplish, and he's going to set sail.
Yeah. So he's not really,
That's what I think.
That's what infuriates me about Mr. Poilievre's comment. He's not stupid. He knows damn well that this project can take anywhere between 5 and 7 years. It's got so much that needs to be done to it that Mr. Carney is not going to be the beneficiary of his decision. It's going to be the next prime minister is going to enjoy it. So he's obviously not doing it for himself. He's doing it for the country. And I think the decision was made. Personally, I think the decision was made on behalf of the country, for the country. So, interesting point, Gary. He's probably not going to get a chance to live in it. Probably if he gets to a second term, it'll be a 2-term and done, and then hand the keys over to somebody else, right?
Exactly. I the more I think about it, the more I think he's going to be like a Frank McKenna. McKenna did 10 years and resigned.
Yeah.
And left. I think just the way he said that the other day at the news conference, I got thinking about it later, and that's what I think. Coming back to Poilievre, you mentioned about losing brownie points in your book. Poilievre's in a deficit of brownie points in my book and has been for a long time. And the sooner the Conservatives get rid of him, the better the party's going to be in getting somebody in there with some fresh ideas that can actually connect with a majority of Canadians. Now, I'll stop that because I want to get on with a couple of other things. First of all, please, we want to hear from you as far as your comments and reactions to the questions and what we're discussing here this evening. And if you like what you're watching, by all means, remember to subscribe on YouTube and follow on Facebook. Also, we are tonight experimenting with a stream going to Instagram. I don't see any real action there, although we didn't get a chance to pre-promote it. Yes, if you are watching us, yes, you had to turn your phone sideways because we are streaming in horizontal. But if this goes okay and we don't have any major technical difficulties within the next week or so, I'll have it set up so that there's a separate vertical stream going out, which will make it easier for you to watch on your phone. So that's that out of the way. Now, let's talk about the symbolism of decay. When a G7 nation cannot manage to preserve or securely rebuild its leaders' official residence, that sends a global message of administrative incompetence. It really does. The fear of the voter. The continuous gridlock proving that modern political communication is entirely defensive. Leaders would rather let a national heritage site rot than defend unnecessary capital infrastructure spend. In the permanent campaign, well, because Canada operates in a state of perpetual polarization, structural governance decisions are constantly sacrificed for short-term 24-hour news cycle survival. Carney said it the other day. It's up to us. It's a responsibility that we leave things better than what we found them. And this is one of those steps where hopefully he's going to leave things better than what he found them.
Yeah.
Eddie, if you want to weigh in there, go ahead. I'm just going to bring up a couple of quick comments too while
No,
while we're
absolutely.
talking.
I mean, well, look, I mean, every time the Prime Minister of Britain, United Kingdom, Keir Starmer or whoever else had something to say to the world or to his constituents, I mean, boom, there it is, the familiarity of 10 Downing Street. Everyone knows 10 Downing Street, and it's quite the building, a heritage building in the UK. So when you see him walk out from that, you know exactly where the person is, and this is the Prime Minister of Great Britain. And Élysée Palace in France with Emmanuel Macron and all the previous leaders of that country. I mean, that's the presidential palace of France. This is where the prime minister resides. For a government leader to be living in high-end heritage real estate that displays to the world that I am the leader of my country, I think is paramount to sending a clear message to the rest of the world. I am so-and-so, I am from Canada, I'm Prime Minister of Canada, and I will regularly speak to you from this fantastic monumental building. We just haven't done that since 2015. I think it was 2015 the last time it was occupied. And then, of course, you look at that disaster in the United States right now. It's, beautiful White House. The President of the United States is addressing the world from the White House. Why is it such a big deal for Canada not to have the same? And again, I won't jump on my horse right now on my soapbox, but previous prime ministers had the opportunity to bite the bullet and take control of this and get it fixed once and for all. Because look, fix it now, it's going to be something our prime ministers and the world can enjoy for the next 100 years. Get it done. It's finally done. And by the way, I'm also with you, Gary. I really don't want that building knocked down and put new foundations, new cement, and a new modern building put into place. This particular building, in terms of its architecture, can be modified to accommodate anything that our government would need domestically or internationally, for sure. So I'd say let's just keep it as a heritage site.
Or at the very least, incorporate the walls, the facade of the structure into modern facilities on the inside. However, I think there are probably some architectural details, decorative details on the inside that are still in relatively good shape. and need some restoration work that should be preserved in their original place within the house. I think as much as possible should be preserved, the same as what they've been doing over the last number of years and will be for another couple of years with Parliament Hill.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
same thing. And when you look at some of the video of some of the areas that have been completed inside now of the house, it's beautiful. It's just mind-blowing. But let me say this too, Eddie. You know, if our institutions are too paralyzed to make a definitive decision on a single isolated house on Sussex Drive, it explains why they consistently stall out on massive national challenges like defense spending, energy corridors, and major infrastructure.
Indeed.
It's one thing follows another. And the more we stumble on things like this and get into some of the foolish debates that we get into at times, that reflects on our standing within the G7. It reflects on our standing within the G20. It reflects on our standing in the entire world. And as we're going to talk about in our final segment, our standing is fading a little bit. So we need to suck it up and let's get our engine started and headed in the right direction. So, and I sorry if I kind of paused on that. I had another phrase in my about to roll over my tongue, and I said, no.
No.
So a little bit of no.
Keep it in mind, and you can tell me after the show.
Okay, so Eddie, what is our takeaway?
Well, ladies and gents, the crisis at 24 Sussex isn't about brick and mortar. It's a political culture that values avoiding blame far more than delivering results. And coming up, the PQ unveils its updated separation playbook.
What used to take a full crew and $1 million studio now fits right on your Mac. For years, professional video meant complicated setups, endless editing, and tools that never quite work together. Meet Ecamm. Ecamm is a complete broadcast studio built for Mac. Record, stream, and present all from one place. And with dual mode, you can stream in wide and vertical at the same time, so your content's ready for every platform. From live shows to podcasts, virtual events to video courses, training sessions, even Zoom meetings, webinars, and presentations. Ecamm gives you control and a studio that just works the way you do. Built exclusively for Mac, so it's simple, elegant, and insanely capable. Ecamm, your broadcast studio.
Well, the Parti Quebecois isn't just talking about sovereignty anymore. They are actively drafting the operational framework for a sovereign state. This systematic blueprint brings the constitutional question back to the forefront, challenging a federal system that is already struggling with internal fiction. So let's have a look at what's going on here, Eddie. It leaves a lot to be desired at times. You know, I shake my head on some of this stuff, but the PQ, one of the key areas that they've put out as far as this roadmap is concerned is the issue of currency.
Right.
And what they are proposing is a 3-phase transition to a Quebec-based currency. Phase 1, temporary use of the Canadian dollar. I would hope that Ottawa would say that's a hard no. The dollar's going to take a beating as it is with this referendum if the PQ forms government and pushes forward with a referendum in its first term. So sometime within the next 4 years, our dollar is going to be in the tank.
Mm-hmm.
And investment will start flowing out of Quebec. It already has, actually, again. And also out of Canada. Because you've got the PQ in the east, and you've got the uproar in Alberta in the west.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's an issue. No, you want to separate? Then you better have a plan for your own currency in place on day one, period. Sorry, that's the way it is. Phase 2, they'd have an anchored Quebec currency, in other words, something that they would start phasing in. And of course, phase 3 would include a flexible, independent currency. Well, you better be prepared if you were successful in winning a referendum and starting the move to break this province away from Canada. You better be prepared to have your flexible independent currency ready on day one, the day after the vote.
The birth of the Laurentian dollar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, the PQ's detailed roadmap aims to present sovereignty as a low-risk technical transition rather than an emotional, volatile gamble. What fairy tale are you guys reading? Low-risk technical transition. Is this guy out to lunch completely? Honest to God, like...
Yeah. Gary, you've heard me say in the show before that PSPP is not a stupid man, highly educated. I was even giving him a pat on the back in terms of how eloquently he speaks to both the French and the English population of this province and the world when he has to, on how well spoken he is, and he's a very, very intelligent man. And recently, when he came out with the Blue Book, which basically outlines their entire strategy, not into minutiae detail, but something that's made available to the public. I read some of these things, and I'm thinking to myself, this is the same intelligent man I was willing to give a pat in the back not a year ago in terms of common sense thinking and taking a more pragmatic approach to things. And this is what his Parti Quebecois, the party he leads, comes out with as a platform for separating from Canada and being self-sufficient moving forward. What? Moving forward from year 15? It's absolutely preposterous that he thinks that the Canadian government would be willing to take a 10 to 15 year approach to letting the child leaving the home. I think he's dreaming in Technicolor, Gary. I don't know how he thinks that the population that he's really depending on to vote yes in a referendum would look at this and honestly say, yeah, we're in good hands, we'll be fine. I just think he's way out in left field on this one. Like, I mean, big time, Gary, not even small, but huge. And I'm not saying this because, I've been living in Montreal my whole life. French wasn't my first language, but I speak French. And I'm not saying it because of that. I'm saying it just by looking at that document and the sheer lunacy that anybody will accept this as de facto. Great, this is how Quebec's going to move forward. And Canada's going to say, great, go ahead, we're going to help you out. I am worried, Gary, as a Quebecer, of the damage that A, this Blue Book is going to do, B, it doesn't communicate the real scenario of what Quebec is going to have to go through. And I think for him to be the leader of the Parti Quebecois and potentially the province of Quebec, you have to be more honest and upfront of what kind of sacrifices myself as a Quebecer, yourself as a new Quebecer, and Quebecers who've been living their whole lives for generations, what pain they're going to have to go through. There is no pain defined in this document, Gary. So how much better is this from the propaganda we got in 1995 and the referendum before that, the first referendum? Gary, I'm just beside myself. I cannot believe the um, I won't even call it propaganda. It's just not being honest and truthful. It's here's a pair of rosy sunglasses. Continue to wear them until we become elected. Absolutely ridiculous. I'm shocked. I'm absolutely shocked. I'm actually sad that this kind of document came out because up until this thing came out, Gary, I was giving the gentleman the benefit of a doubt. Now I really see his true colors, and if I'm seeing them, I'm sure a lot of potential voters are smart enough to see right through it as well. And I would think, especially our business leaders here, it's their money. The big companies, their investment money might dry up because of this.
Well, Eddie, the polling has shown that the majority of Quebecers don't want a referendum. However, when you break it down into the younger demos in Quebec are supporting a referendum on separation. For whatever reason, I'm not sure, but they are. Now, whether they've been brainwashed somehow into thinking that this is going to be the be-all and the end-all, I don't know. But when you lump them all together, at least the last polling I saw, it showed the majority of Quebecers don't want to even contemplate holding another referendum. And I think a lot of people, the baby boomers, even the millennials, realize after 1995 the harm economically that cost this province, did to this province. And the fact that here we are in 2026 and there's still bruises and wounds that are healing from the 1995 referendum, which has slowed any investment dollars coming in. And that's why, especially when Legault became premier, why he was heavy into throwing all kinds of taxpayers' money at a number of business ventures, because that's the only way he could get them to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And then even then, a couple of them just turned around and like Amazon just said, you know what, we've had it with a number of things. And they used, they shied away from the fact that one of the distribution centers was trying to unionize.
Right.
That obviously in the back rooms did play into it, and they can deny it all they want, but we all know what Amazon is. But I'm sure, too, the rest of the rules and regulations regarding language and everything else in this province played into that decision. They walked away, like, what was it, five of these centers that have been built in 5 years in the province?
Mm-hmm.
That's a significant investment that they just walked away from. Walmart, if you recall, all of a sudden, they were setting up a big distribution center outside of Montreal.
Right.
And they all of a sudden stopped, said, oh, we've reevaluated our overall plan and we're going to pour money into opening a few more stores and upgrading a number of stores.
Right.
That was an easy way out, but I think they were starting to see the writing on the wall too.
Don't forget about Norvolt.
Yes. There was another one. And a lot of provincial money went into that, just trying to get them here. And we all know what happened there.
Yep.
Gonzo. And now Legault's gone. And Frechette came in, and she was, talking about offering an olive branch to Anglophones in the province. And PSPP was talking about, Anglophones don't have to worry. We're going to make sure that we understand that they're incorporated into our society. And both those parties are refusing to take part in an English language leaders debate before the election in October.
Yeah.
Well, now that's really reaching out and trying to embrace Anglophones in the province, isn't it? That tells me exactly where Anglophones stand when it comes to those two parties. And it's too bad we don't have a stronger Liberal and Conservative opposition in this province that would give Anglophones and others a chance
voice.
to park their vote elsewhere and hopefully either put them in government or at least give them a strong opposition. Because these guys, like Frechette, I'm beginning to think it's not going to be any better under her than what it was under Legault. And if PSPP wins, he's not going to worry about anything other than getting his way with a referendum, getting the referendum set up and let's get going, you know. And we've had a couple of comments now about Quebec and separation and thinking that it's entitled to a number of things from Canada, even upon separation. And another one saying, you know, French Canada is a conquered society. And it is, but it retained its language, it retained its religion, legal system, and majority status. Like, really? When you get right down to it, and I know, like, I'm going to anger some people, but the fact of the matter is, it's once again, Trudeau spent 10 years apologizing to anyone and everyone for whatever. And we have spent, since the battle on the plains of Abraham, we have been, as the winners, if you will, or the offspring of the winners, if you will, we've been bending over backwards and just saying yes, 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 yes to whatever Quebec wants. It has to stop. It has to stop. How does a province as rich in resources and a population the size of Quebec and a city that was number one in the country and now is number two population-wise, at least for now, and at one point was a center of investment and is no longer, how do we qualify for pretty much half of the equalization payments going to provinces? Explain that one to me.
Indeed.
I know I'm as thick as a fence post, but to me that's a pretty easy thing. Anyway, let's talk a little bit more about a couple of other things. The strategy exploits current friction between Ottawa and provinces over immigration, healthcare funding, and resource management. Now, central to the blueprint is a highly contested strategy regarding currency, border controls, and the division of national debt. Huh?
Yeah.
The division of national debt. Okay. Take it away, Eddie. 'Cause I have nothing for that. I can say
mean,
publicly.
Yeah, you're bringing up, just 3 or 4 of the different areas that are actually outlined in this blue book, and just how I'll use the term nonchalant, how nonchalantly they speak about and portray every element that they require in order to become an independent Quebec that has such a tremendous dependency on what Canada's willing to contribute or further contribute to the province of Quebec after it votes in a referendum potentially to separate. Every one of their clauses and elements pretty much has some element of dialogue or dependency on Canada. The national debt, Gary, I mean, this is something that all provinces born as part of the country's national debt for, one payment or subsequent investment or project money handout. There is money that each and every province also owes as part of the national debt. What Canada's going to say? Oh, you know what, Quebec? Forget about your component of the national debt. Well, if you read through the book itself, the document that was put out, it seems that way. I I I I just don't get how they were able to generate some of the planned numbers and figures that Quebec is going to be great on its own, and we will no longer need Canadian money to survive, or the money we're getting now in no way is going to create problems if we don't get it from them anymore. They're really not doing the math. And look, I'm not an accountant, Gary, but a couple of weeks ago when all this stuff was coming down, I put pen to paper. I don't know how the hell they're going to do this without having billions and billions and billions of dollars sitting someplace, for a transition, B, a transition without Canadian money, and C, until they start making their own money, until the investments come back to the brand new country of Quebec. We're not talking about a decade here, Gary. We're talking decades. And I just don't understand how they will be able to sustain the livelihood that Quebecers may be enjoying today after a separation vote, or when they actually completely become independent. I'm a Quebecer. I see that I'm going to suffer from this, regardless of what they do to Anglos or not, or how they don't listen to our voices all the time. Quebecers, my next door neighbor, my friends who are Quebecers are going to suffer. The parents of my friends are going to suffer. The children of my friends, French Quebecers, are going to suffer from this, Garrett. From what I'm seeing, look, I'm not trying to be a naysayer here, or just shooting my mouth off for nothing. Looking in between the lines, Gary, and just putting very simple arithmetic together, I really don't understand how PSPP can propose that, oh, it's going to be great and we're going to be better off after a referendum vote. It scares the crap out of me, man. I'll put it bluntly. It really does.
Well, they're getting pretty much half of the equalization payment, so that's wiped out.
Yeah.
We can't balance a budget at the moment in this province, even with the equalization payments,
Mm-hmm.
and being one of the highest taxed areas in North America, as it is.
The highest tax province or state in the Americas, North and South.
So, take away the equalization payments. Can you imagine what the taxes are going to be like in order to try and come close to balancing the budget? And can you imagine going out onto the international money market and asking with your hand out, asking for investment or a loan to carry you through as you establish a new country? Good luck. You're going to be laughed back to Quebec so fast that you won't even realize what hit you. It's like they're dreaming in Technicolor. Like,
Let me ask you, Gary. I told you how surprised I was that this comes under PSPP's blessing in getting this document out. What's your take on PSPP on this? Because I know you were kind of agreeing with me that he was really a smart, really smart and sharp fellow. So once this came out, what was your first impression when you looked at this of PSPP once this came out? What was your impression? Your knee-jerk reaction when you saw this?
my knee-jerk reaction was, Plamondon has gone right off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
Just totally lost it. This is just, it's almost like reading a child's comic book.
Yeah.
You know, If it wasn't so serious for the average Quebecer living and trying to get by, especially right now, when we have Alberta, a small group in Alberta, a vocal group, talking about separation and pushing a question on referendum going forward and all of that, which is making investors nervous. So, and it's not only for Alberta, they're looking at it from a Canadian standpoint. If you're looking at putting in a major new plant here in Canada, you're going to think twice because you've got them on the east and you've got them on the west. Like,
Yeah.
and you don't know what the hell is going to happen next.
Yeah, you know what, and that's the whole thing here. I mean, we have the war drums rattling out in Alberta, and then we have the war drums banging here in Quebec. Not only are they creating potential investment loss for their provinces, they're going to take Canada down with them. On top of that,
Exactly.
and that's the really scary part. Apart from what these guys want, these provinces want, or the leaders of or the separatist movement of these provinces want, the collateral damages thereafter, even if they don't separate, they will be there, and it's theirs to bear in terms of blame. They will never bear responsibility for that. I mean, they always point the finger in the other direction, but this is really starting to look like a potential disaster for the Carney government. If you know, God forbid, the provinces do have a referendum and by some miracle they do separate, and then you know what? If the referendum votes are no, the collateral damage and mopping up after this to ensure that that investment continues in this country, and also investment in Quebec and Alberta. I mean, all this wheeling and dealing in terms of the new economy of the world, the new world order, if you want to put it, and Carney making a tremendous effort along with all kinds of people throughout Canada, business-wise, liberal, conservative, NDP, it doesn't matter what their political backing is, going out there and finding business from other countries to invest in Canada. Can you imagine this goes through, how all that work is going to potentially dry up on account of the referendum movements in Alberta, the separation movement in Alberta and Quebec? All that hard work is going to be for naught. And then what? We're going to have to go back to our dependency on the United States. This is all coming to mind right now, Gary, and I'm quite honestly, I'm starting to shit bricks about this. It's really scary stuff coming up over the next 4 to 5 months. The referendum in Alberta, the election in Quebec at the end of this year, during the fall, November, the
October.
elections in the United States, October in the United States.
Yes.
My
Or November
goodness,
in the U.S. and October here. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so much going on that's beyond the government of Canada's control. And I guess we'll just have to wait until November and December to watch the dust settle and look at 2027 and what the outcomes of all of this are going to be. I really don't see a very pretty picture here for us, Gary. It's starting to look a little dismal.
Eddie, it's going to be a really tough. Later this summer, it's going to really pick up, and into September, between Alberta and Quebec and the campaigns, it's going to be tough. It's going to be a really tough time. And of course, you know, looking over our shoulder at what's happening south of the border with the midterms. Yeah, the year is going to end in just one big cluster.
Mm-hmm. You're seeing that too, huh?
Yep. Yeah, I can see a couple of extra bottles of scotch being consumed along the way. Anyway, and the one thing that we did not mention in our discussion this evening, and this is the wild card in both cases, First Nations.
Yes.
PSPP seems to be downplaying the role of the First Nations. And I don't think he's going to make any friends on the First Nations side the way he's talking about it. And in Alberta, the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And yet the First Nations, first of all, they want nothing to do with any talk of separation. And secondly, out west, they have all kinds of treaties in place. And here, there are some treaties, and then there's the land issues as well. So, good luck with that, guys, because you have to deal with that. And I'll tell you one thing: once you start pushing the First Nations, their chiefs are not going to be as easy or as cordial, perhaps, as some of our politicians in Ottawa who are just content to roll over and play dead, or roll over and say, tickle my belly, and we all go away happy. So anyway, speaking of going away, our takeaway is the separation blueprint reminds us that national unity is not a permanent state. It requires an ongoing functional proof of value that the federal system is struggling to provide. Well, up next, the fractured consensus of Canadian politeness.
Is your current internet service slow, dropping out, leaving you frustrated? Let me suggest you try eBox, a Quebec-based internet service offering unlimited high-speed fiber where available, with plans starting as low as $49 a month. Gary and I have been eBox customers for over a year, and we are extremely happy with our service. Scan the code on the screen or click the affiliate link below for more information and a special offer using one of the 2 promo codes.
Okay, so Eddie, the long-standing international brand of the inherently polite, agreeable Canadian is colliding directly with a harsh economic reality.
Well, Gary, for sure, the social trust is fraying on the ground as competition for scarce resources, housing, and healthcare turns public spaces into high-friction environments.
Wow. And let's have a look at things here. So, we have the stress of the squeeze. Persistent inflation and a severe housing crisis are driving everyday anxieties and baseline social patience down. Erosion of civic trust, public spaces, public transit, and digital town squares are experiencing escalating hostility and confrontation. And the identity crisis, well, the superficial branding of Canadian politeness is giving way to a more defensive, survival-oriented insularity. Well, for some reason, I had a tough time getting my tongue around that word. Anyway, politeness as a luxury, Eddie. Social cohesion is relatively easy to maintain during periods of economic expansion and abundance. It becomes a luxury, though, when citizens feel they are actively competing for basic public services. The political exploitation of friction, instead of lowering the temperature, modern political messaging systematically weaponizes the growing societal frustration to entrench polarization. And the reality of the data. Public sentiment polling increasingly shows Canadians feel more isolated, less safe in urban centers, and more skeptical of their fellow citizens than a decade ago. So, I thought that this was a great little way to end our Canadian-based discussion this evening, because I watched a couple of, TikToks the other day, and it was actually fans who were here in Toronto and in Vancouver for FIFA matches and they were saying that they did not find it as Canadians as friendly and as polite as what we've
They
marketed
expected.
ourselves and in the reputation that we have built up. And one of them, I sort of thought, you know, you two, you're from the US. Who the hell are you to be going on about Vancouver and the Lower East Side? Now you know why, as you said, now you know why you got your Airbnb for so cheap. Because they were right on the fringe of the Lower East Side, and
Yeah.
that's just a drug neighborhood. And you know, and he was going on about fentanyl and all of this sort of thing. And he said, yes, I know we have issues in LA and some of the bigger centers as well. He said, but, you know, just saying that our visit to Vancouver overall has been pleasant, but you really need to get a hold of this situation. And of course, they're under the impression that the government is just, and basically is really, giving the druggies what they need, what they want, you know. Hamilton, I watched a piece just the other night on Hamilton, and there's an area of Hamilton now, and I don't know how they still have businesses open because of the drugs and the violence and everything else. And even here in Montreal, you look around, like I you know, went out the other night, and just down the street on one of the benches, there was a guy, and as I was approaching with the dog, he didn't appear to me to be moving. So I walked by and stopped and kind of looked to see if I could see any kind of signs of life. And he appeared to be okay, that he was sleeping. And if I had thought that he might have been in medical distress, I would have called 911, because I'll tell you one thing I'm not going to do. And it sounds cruel, but there is no way I am going to try and intervene with somebody out on the street, because you don't know what they're on and how they're going to react. 911,
Putting yourself
call the
in danger.
police and let them handle it. You know, but yeah, no, there's no way. I'm sorry. You can call me whatever you want. I call myself smart not to walk up and shake a guy and all of a sudden have him jump up and, you know, knife you or shoot you. As we were walking down Barrie the other day, and there were two police cadets out on patrol. And when we walked by on the way to my doctor's appointment, there was a guy with his blanket and his bike and everything stretched out, tucked in under an overhang on a building. Coming back, that's the guy that they were with, and at that point, they were searching him. They had him awake and searching him. First of all, a very weird situation. On the sidewalk was a pile of kitty's shoes, about no bigger than that. A whole and there was, look at those shoes. What would he be doing with those? And then as they're patting him down, she thought she saw one of the cadets taking a knife from the guy, like a curved blade knife. And as she said that, around the corner came a cruiser hot and pulled up to give them assistance. But that's what you're up against. Like, you don't know. And that's why if I suspect that somebody's in some kind of distress, I'll call 911. I'll hang out at the corner or whatever until they arrive, but I'm not going near that individual.
Well, I think I think you did the right thing, Gary. Because look, a lot of these homeless folks, they need to defend themselves somehow,
Yes.
because they're also they're targeted by homeless folks and people in distress, but they're also targeted by kids wanting to have a fun time and abuse some of these people that are in distress in the streets. So obviously they're going to have something to defend themselves, and God forbid a good Samaritan come by and out of panic or whatnot, they'll hurt you. So I think you did the right thing, Gary. And here's the thing. Yeah, you know what? We've got the World Cup in Vancouver. We've got the World Cup in Toronto. Other major cities throughout the year have all sorts of festivals. It's festival season in Montreal. We've got the Jazz Fest in full tilt. We've got the Comedy Fest coming up. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on. We have tourists coming in from all over the place. And you know what? As time goes on and the economy further stretches the capability of somebody to take care of themselves and keep a home and whatnot, more we're going to be struggling. We're seeing more and more people that are in distress on the streets for whatever reason. Areas becoming more depressed. And yes, our tourists are going to be exposed to this from time to time. But I'm kind of the belief, Gary, that even though that the stresses of our Canadian society today might put a damper on a lot of people's emotional well-being, I still kind of think that Canadians in general will go the extra mile to be pleasant to the people that do visit our cities and visit our country. Um, and I feel sorry for the American tourists that do decide to come up and visit our wonderful country after their president threatens us and continues to threaten us on a continuing basis. You are going to get a cold shoulder. You may get a cold shoulder from Canadians, and I'd have to say justifiably so, considering the rhetoric and serious attacks from said president, and unfortunately labeling good American people. It's unfortunate, but it's I would just say it's human nature. As much as we want to be the good Canadians we like to consider ourselves as, and they are unfortunately going to run into frustrated Canadians, and they are unfortunately going to be running into some of the less desirable areas of our cities as these folks in Vancouver came through. So. Yeah, I've seen those as well, Gary. People saying, "Well, I thought Canadians would be much nicer than I thought they would be." I did see those comments coming from a few Americans. I get it. They should never be treated if they're spending their money here poorly. And by the same token, I also saw a few from people from Europe where they said, "Well, you know what? We thought we'd be a little more respected here. I heard all about Canadian hospitality. It's not bad, but I kind of expected more." So I'm not exactly sure what those particular comments mean, but darn Gary, I think you and I as Canadians will try our darndest to put our best foot forward in the worst of circumstances, unless you have to say something that justifies telling them, "No, I'm sorry, this is not the way it works." So I don't know. Maybe somebody pushed back on something or other they weren't happy about. Wanting a pint of beer at 4 o'clock in the morning after the bars closed on at 3 o'clock, and they weren't happy about that. Who knows? Who knows? I genuinely think that Canadians are very good natured. In my travels business wise, I don't think I've actually walked into a country or flown into a country where I wasn't well received either as a businessman or as a tourist in the city. So I think genuinely people are nice. I guess it just depends on what part of the city you walk into and what a particular circumstance befalls the person that you're running into that may have been giving you a cold shoulder.
Well, I again watching some shorts and browsing through to see what I could find related to this particular issue. And in Toronto and in Vancouver, a lot of residents have had it with the FIFA organization, and the demand that it has put upon city infrastructure and the detours and changes in bus routes and everything else, and they've had it, and I understand that. I really do understand it. That combined with the pricing and everything that goes with that, I totally understand it. And I saw a title on a YouTube video a while ago, and I think I mentioned it once before on here, Eddie, that Montreal dodged a bullet by saying no to FIFA. And I think we did, frankly. So you have that aspect of it. And then, we've been at war, economic war, for 18 months. And our grocery prices are going up on a daily basis, not a weekly, not a monthly, but a daily basis. It's getting tougher and tougher to put food on the table while keeping money for rent and trying to have a couple of dollars left over for the kids or for yourselves to go out, even go out and grab an ice cream cone. It's getting tougher. Then on the other side, and this is the one that really burns my ass, to put it bluntly, is you have Americans going overseas, and the minute they are getting ready to land in whatever country, they slap on maple leaf flags and they do the maple washing.
Yep.
And let on that they're from Canada. And you know what? Here's the thing. And yes, I'm going to stereotype to a degree, but damn it all, if the shoe fits, wear it. Because this is the way it is. There are a lot of Americans who travel who are loud and obnoxious. And they think that they're God's gift to the world the minute they step off their cruise ship or off the airplane or whatever. And those are the people who are giving some of the quiet Americans who are ashamed of what's happening in the White House a bad name as well. You're getting all lumped together. The same as we're all getting lumped together because a lot of us are getting testy. But some of that testiness may not be a Canadian. As a matter of fact, a lot of it, especially when you're traveling overseas, not Canadian. So keep that in mind as well. And that really burns me because they laugh at us and the MAGAs look down on us, but they're among the first to slap out the maple leaf and the backpacks with the maple leaf on and, oh, I'm from Canada. You know what? You can almost smell it a mile away that you're lying just by your demeanor. Unfortunately, though, we still get painted with your brush. And frankly, I don't like it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of hearing about it. And so if I have to call you out and I have to call out others, and even though there's collateral damage for some of the good people in the U.S., so be it. Because again, we're in a war.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents worth on it.
I'll throw in my nickel and dime on that one, Gary. I've actually come across Americans that were wearing a Canadian patch on their backpack, and I mean, I didn't bring them to task on it. I just kind of shook my head and just ignored them completely, and that burns my gizzard when somebody else is wearing the flag of my country, because where they're from, they may not necessarily be treated the way they would expect to be treated, knowing they're from the United States. And you see that all over the place when you travel in Europe. Where are you from? I'm from Canada. Oh, you're from Canada. Wow, we thought you were an American. And for a moment there, I feel bad for good motivated and good feeling Americans. But then by the same token, I'm thinking to myself, okay, there must be a reason why you really don't like the patronage of American tourists in your establishment. So makes me proud when I get something like that. Makes me proud. Makes me a proud Canadian. And thank you for welcoming me as a Canadian to your establishment and to your country. You know, it's but I do hear that quite often. Oh yes, you're Canadian. Great, fantastic. We thought you were American. Wow.
I, yeah,
Yeah, I get it, Gary. It's very frustrating for sure.
it really is. And, you know, when you watch some of the Maple Mega and the way they go on about Canada and how they, you know, think that they're bringing us to our knees with the current occupant of the Oval Office.
Hmm.
No, you're not. You're just
Yeah.
making us much crustier than what we normally are. And it's going to come back to bite you big time. It already is. Wait till your Social Security is gone.
Hmm.
And a few other, you're already losing your medical, whatever medical coverage you had. So, you know, enjoy. Just enjoy. And by the way, God help anyone that I see maple washing. Because I will have a few choice words.
Yeah. Actually, you know what, Gary? Come to think of it, the last 18 months, Canadians have endured under down south administration. I too. If I come across a situation like that where there is maple washing, I will certainly speak up because I've been under attack for 18 months now. There comes a point in any person's life where you do take a stand. You'll take a slap to one cheek. You'll turn your face. Take a slap in the other cheek. Maybe I'll turn my face again. But certainly the third one's not going to happen. So I like that thinking. I agree with you.
And I just realized I was going to change the lower third for this segment to sorry, not sorry. And I forgot to change it. I just looked now and realized I'd forgotten to change it because that really does sum it up. Sorry, not sorry.
Not sorry.
Not in the least.
So sad
So,
for that.
Eddie, what's our takeaway?
Well, folks, our takeaway. When survival and affordability become daily struggles, which we've all seen, the politeness veneer is the very first thing that burns off. Yeah.
And on a day usually reserved for easy patriotism, the data tells a different story. From the decaying walls of 24 Sussex Drive to a clinical blueprint for succession here in Quebec, and right down to the hardening attitudes on our city streets, the foundational myths of Canada are being stress tested like never before. Cohesion isn't automatic, and stability isn't guaranteed. We are moving out of an era of comfortable consensus and entering a period of raw institutional and social realpolitik. We leave you with this question. As we look at these cracking foundations, is Canada's current political class capable of redesigning our institutions to match our reality? Or are we simply managing a slow, predictable decline? Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd like to hear from you.
And that brings us to the end of episode 90. Remember to like, subscribe or follow, and share. We thank you for your support. I'm Eddie Tekalik. Good night.
And I'm Gary MacDonald. Night Talk Canada returns in 7 days. Good night.